welcome to another episode of Aligned Heart. This is Misty Springer, and I am here with my dear friend and acquaintance, Lorine. Oh, now
Lorene.
you're
I know.
Lorine. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Tell me your name.
Okay, Lorrine Headrick. Everyone gets that wrong.
Okay.
So
Yes,
it's
I know it as Lorine, but it's
yeah,
Lorine.
and
Lorine
it's not
Headrick.
common. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to have you here because I have been watching you and love your story. Lorene is doing incredible things in the world. She is sharing her light and sharing her gifts. And I've watched her really take the gifts that she has and allow God to magnify them in the world. And it's been a beautiful process to watch. And I think it's such a beautiful example of how ordinary women do extraordinary things. And, as on this podcast, one of the things that I love to do is interview women who are doing extraordinary things in the world, one little ordinary step at a time. And I know she has inspired me as I watched her, and I know she will inspire all of you as you hear her story and hear what is unfolding for her as she just takes that one little aligned step each and every day and where it's taken her. And so we're going to start from the beginning and just hear, Lorene, what you are doing now. So just share with all of my listeners, all the listeners that are tuning in and wanting to do some great things in the world and share their light. What are you doing now? Tell us about a little bit about you and what you're doing.
Okay, first, I feel like when people hear my voice, they get distracted and like, where is she? Where's the accent from? So just to dismiss that and focus, my accent's from New Zealand and I live in the States now. I married a guy from California in college. And then we'll head into what I do now is I'm a mental performance coach slash life coach for elite athletes and sports moms because it's been my journey for many, many years. My oldest is 25 and my youngest of four girls is now 17 in her senior year in high school. I was an athlete, my family did that growing up, and then I was an athlete at BYU Hawaii when they had sports. So it's been a big part of my life and all our children's lives. And I haven't been coaching on the mental health side of it. Maybe the last, I don't know, maybe 7 years is when I pivoted to that. I think I'm heading into the backstory first, but that's what I do now. I'll let you ask me the next
Absolutely.
question.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you are following after what you love and what lights you up and kind of your story. So I would love to hear that. Where did this first begin, this desire, this little call that said, okay, I need you to step into this and start taking action towards this little niggle in your heart. Tell me about that.
I guess I feel like I have to go back a little bit to I got my degree in college in exercise sports science, and I got married and I had my first baby. Um, and I graduated holding her, right? Like in college. And I remember thinking, I need to have a job where I can still feel like I can do things outside of motherhood, um, and use my education. And so I decided, well, being a personal trainer, I can work when my husband comes home and give myself a little break to talk to adults too. And so that was my initial kind of in the health. I want to stay in the health and wellness world. And I did that for about 20 years while raising our kids. Um, and it felt really good because I felt aligned, like, oh, I can help other people, but I can still have motherhood as my love and joy and be where I felt like I needed to be. And I was aligned with that. But throughout, I had little side jobs because I like to change things up. And I just always wanted my girls to feel like, well, you can find your interest too and do motherhood. And so I remember I did Pampered Chef. I did some makeup, Senegence, like all these little things that just felt like I can do little fun things. And I felt like none of them were where I was fully landing, but they were not like they were bad, but it just didn't feel like it was my landing place. And I knew that there was more to come, but I figured I'll just continue to kind of take action and try to balance motherhood while finding some other jobs to do. I remember talking to a friend in the car one time and telling her, it's just, I feel like sometimes I'm that person that just jumps around to everything. And maybe it seems strange from the outside. And she said, no, it's not, because this is how you're figuring out where you're going to land next. And that really kind of felt like it's what I needed to hear, instead of feeling like I didn't know what I was doing. And so it kind of empowered my different choices, because it did give me clarity with every one of like, okay, well, I know this isn't it. I'm going to continue trying something different. So yeah, I worked with athletes, and I was a sports conditioning coach. It got to a point where all of that felt kind of shallow to me. I felt like I was representing or fighting against, if you have a six pack, you'll be happy type of thing. And I got my nutrition certification. I was just always trying to fill the pieces of the pie that I thought were missing, but it never felt like I quite landed still, yet I was still learning. And I prayed all the time, because I don't know if we talk about this, but I'm going to, like, my patriarchal blessing mentioned something like, I'm part of my challenge in this life is to bring gifts that I had basically before and bring them to kind of pass here. And so I felt like, I just felt deep inside that that hadn't happened yet. Like, but I was not judging myself. I was okay with it, because I knew I was constantly trying things, but it hadn't landed. And then when I was doing sports conditioning, I remember there were some girls that messaged me privately, and they were the athletes that everyone would have thought had it all together. They were pretty, they were top athletes. I got playtime, but they were struggling, and they felt for some reason that they could tell me about it. And that's when I realized, I don't have this tool. I don't know how to help them in the mental health side of things. How can I learn that? But still, nothing happened. I was just doing my thing. And then I got injured, not long after, and I got herniated discs. And I used to just want to work with athletes who were elite athletes physically, because I didn't know anything different, and I had never experienced hardship mentally myself, nothing real in that capacity. And I remember when I got herniated discs, I went into a depression for a year, but I'd never experienced these kind of emotions before. And no one really talked about it in my family, not to blame anyone, it's just the culture, or just the way I was raised, right? And so I hid it from everyone, because I didn't know what to do. And except for my husband, he's the one who took, all of it, because I felt like he'll always be there, but I hid it from my children. I didn't want them to see me sad or anything, because I didn't know how to process or anything. I didn't have a clue what to do with my emotions. And then we heard a general conference talk. I always forget who it was, but everyone else reminds me, because they all remember it. But it was giving us permission to take mental health seriously and not just put a band-aid on it. And my husband heard it, and I think that was the first time where I felt seen, and like it wasn't something silly, or you just don't talk about it. And we set up an appointment to go see a therapist. And I think I ended up seeing her 4 times. I don't remember what I said. All I remember is I cried the first 3 sessions. And it was like I was all the emotions that I've never known what to do. With them, I felt safe. And I didn't even remember what she said, but felt like it was enough to have a place to feel safe and okay to cry. Like it didn't make me weak, or no one else around my family, no one else could see it. Just this stranger it was her job, right? And so I felt safe there. And so all of these little kind of things were my nudges, I think, and experiences to help guide me. Now, I can look back at my injury was a huge nudge. If I hadn't had that, I wouldn't have learned to have empathy for others, and I wouldn't understand truly what it felt like to be injured. There's things I can't do now. I used to be a cross-country runner in college. As an athlete, I can't run anymore, and that used to be a big part of my identity. And that's where I thought my value was in my workouts and physique. Now everything's changed, because I can't do a lot of things I could. And now I have so much compassion, and now I want to coach the athletes who have been through hardships. Before I was like, I don't even want to have anything to do with those people, because I don't know how to help them. Now it led me to life coaching, which I didn't even know what that was. And it was somehow, I don't even know how that even came into my, realm, but it's another nudge. I think someone at church was talking about it and saying, oh, this one speaker, she's in Spokane. I forgot her name. She's from Spokane, but she's going to be speaking, and there's a group of us that are going to go. Shall we go listen? And I thought, okay, I want to test out what this life coaching thing is and just listen to her and see if I feel connected. And I did. And I even asked her, I got online to meet her afterwards. And I said, what do you think? I'm a health coach now. Do you suggest that I become a life coach? And she told me, just stick to being a health coach. And it was funny because when she goes, do that for a year. But when someone tells me not to do something, it makes me want to do it more. And so maybe that was a nudge too, because then I was really, I was like, no, now I'm more interested in doing this and pursuing it. So eventually, yeah, I got certified there, and I didn't know who to coach at first. I thought I'll coach people midlife mums like me because it's this different phase. And it was okay. I felt like I was really able to help a lot of women, but I didn't want to deal with health and fitness anymore because I think I had so many experiences I just didn't want to deal with anymore. And I was like, let's be fresh. But I felt God's hand in, like, you didn't learn and have all these experiences to just put it aside. You didn't study all these things. You didn't go through this to just leave it. And so I thought, okay, I'm listening, I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to work with athletes again. And that's where I feel like for now, it's the first time that I actually felt like I'm where God wants me to be, more specifically, like it fit in the puzzle piece. The others were like, it almost fits, but it's not quite there. But I always felt like just keep doing, taking action. And so at this point, and I say for now, because who knows where he'll want me next, but I've had a lot of gratitude because I feel aligned with where he wants me now. And even just recently, maybe 3 months ago, or almost 3 months, I wasn't wanting to bring God in as much. I would do little hints, or maybe take a picture of me outside at church in a story or something, my Instagram, because I thought, well, if God wants me here, if I talk about church things, then I won't be able to be doing missionary work. That was my thoughts. It was weird because I thought, then I'm just already bringing in other people who believe, and I'm not doing missionary work. And he would want that, right? Because we're all gathering. It was supposed to gather. And I think my in-laws recently had a tragic car accident and they passed away. Trying to get emotional about that. It was very unexpected. And I think a lot of things have also kind of I guess I wonder, like, where do you want me to be with more urgency? And I had this thought, to be bold and share a post about God. And I didn't think much about it, and I just posted it. And I'd never had such a huge, bold response. And that's when I realized I think God wants me to talk about God, which makes sense when you say that, right? It's like, well, why wouldn't he want me to talk about him more? And how is that not gathering too? Because that's what I wanted. And so I think these are all nudges that have, I feel that God is leading me to serve and where he wants me to be. And so this is where I am now. And I'm always open to where he wants me next. Oh,
Yeah.
long story.
No, and thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing so openly and so vulnerably. And I know that part of sharing from alignment is being able to share your heart from a place of truth. And that can feel really, really scary, especially the more we put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
It's like the bigger your light shines, the more people are seeing that light, which means the more people are seeing your heart, and they're seeing that part of you. Like you were saying in the beginning, you didn't even want your kids to see the hurt and the hardship that you were going through. So I can only imagine, like, just by following, I call them the breadcrumbs of yes, right? It's those little breadcrumbs that say, take this next step, take this next step. And one of the things that stood out so beautifully in your story was that part of your journey was giving yourself permission to not have it all figured out, to not have
Mhm.
that next step automatically like, okay, if you take this next step, then
Yeah.
it's going to take you here. There
Yeah.
was a tremendous amount of trust in the yes. Just in, okay, I'm giving myself permission to go this direction and this direction and this direction. And having that confirmation from that friend, the reason that you remember that is because it landed so deeply and spoke truth,
Yeah.
right? Like it is okay for me to explore all of these other options because it's either going to say, yes, this is what I want, or no, not that.
Yeah. I love that.
And I think that that's a really beautiful little nugget of truth for all of us as we're stepping into this what's next for me, or I know I'm meant for more, but I don't know what that is, or I
Yeah.
feel this call on my heart and I'm stepping into wanting to do more, but not really sure, following that breadcrumb of yes and noticing those little moments of truth are really powerful on that
Yeah.
journey.
And
Um,
I think God, he wants to celebrate with us. I think it's there's lessons that I've learned, right? That recently the thought was, I think sometimes we think, well, this is enough, or I shouldn't ask for more or something, or must be enough growth for me, like I feel blessed. But what if he wants to support us and help us shine our light? And if we get more, it's okay to continue to grow and not close it off for ourselves, if that makes sense.
oh, that makes perfect sense. I think one of the greatest blessings that I have learned through this process of following my desires is that God wants my desires as much as I do, and
Yeah.
that God gives us our desires because He's asking us to use those desires, and then we get even more. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear from you. How have you kind of seen that in your own life, that actually it is okay for me to have what I want. Actually, it is okay to know what I desire and follow it. What have you noticed around that?
Well, I guess, and this is kind of, I think, something recently that I've been more aware of, because I've always felt like, well, no, you just stay humble and you're just grateful and just for what you have, and you don't ask for more type of thing. And just recently, I feel like I've listened to thoughts or ideas where it's like, no, we can ask for more and be grateful and say, and can I have more? Type of thing. Is there, um, recently it's very strange to me because I'm still learning to accept when things happen for me. It feels like I just maybe 3 days ago, I had KSL, a news host, reach out to me, which has never happened, and ask if I would be on a new show that they're creating and be a guest on it next week. And I was like, what the heck? This hasn't happened before, but it happened because I reached out to them maybe 2 years ago and asked if they need a guest for my topic. And I did it 2 years ago. But I thought, oh yeah, that was my one and done, like, cool experience. And then the very next day, another TV host from Arizona DM'd me and asked if I would be on her show, if I lived in Arizona, or if I'm ever in the area. And to me, it felt very abundant, and it felt like, how can this be happening to me? Because I don't know, when you're a business and when you've been doing it, you just, well, my journey is like you just keep kind of doing the little things. And I felt like, well, maybe, I was like, why would this happen? And I thought, well, maybe God I do believe it's like hastening, right? The hastening his work. And maybe he knows that I represent Christ in him and the gospel. And he's like, this is a faster way to get the message out, and I'm going to help you. I don't even know if I answered your question correctly there, but that was the thought, where my desire starts from this small thing, and then I feel like God co-creates with us and gives us opportunities that we didn't think we were at that level, or, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that God helps us to co-create because he helps us to see greater than our own mind. Like
Yeah.
our own mind can only like you said, like, oh yeah, I put that request out there with KSL 2 years ago, haven't heard anything back. And so in my mind, that's done. Like ship has sailed, no longer even a possibility. But God helps us to think greater than our own mind. He sees the potential within us and helps us to co create possibilities that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that idea of co creation because that's how we create more than what we can fathom for ourselves.
Yeah, but I also want to add, I mean, because I put the request and then I was on the show, and so the lesson that I want to share, like I was sharing with my daughter too, is like if we don't take action though, that opportunity wouldn't have been there if I wasn't on her radar because she remembered that I did that, and like she wouldn't, I don't think so at least, but maybe she would. But I think that's also a lesson for us, for me, to continue putting myself out there and taking action, because God loves action. And if we just have these desires, which I think that's really important because it starts with that, but then what are we going to do to to get the momentum going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love what you shared about gratitude. And I think that that's a common misperception that we have that I should just be grateful with for
Yeah.
what I have. I like what I have is sufficient, it's enough, so I shouldn't ask for more because that's selfish, or that's
Yeah.
there's that's greedy. There's
Yeah.
other people that don't have as much, so why should I get more, right? There's all those thoughts that we have that I don't believe are actually God's thoughts.
Yeah.
um, as I study abundance in scripture and as I'm in prayer and meditation with God, it's like there is nothing but abundance. There is nothing but wanting to pour down the blessings. I see it as there is constant goodness raining down, that God's blessing us with everything that we want and more. It's our umbrella of disbelief that we're holding up that's blocking that rain of
I love that
abundance.
visual.
Yeah. And so our job is to just remove that umbrella of disbelief, and then we can just dance in the rain of
Oh, that's so
abundance,
beautiful.
you know.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I love about abundance is, when I think about provide, I love to cook. Cooking is one of my love languages. And when I love cooking a beautiful meal for somebody, and sometimes it's better to cook for somebody else besides my own family because I don't always get the gratitude from my own family
Yeah.
until they move out. And then they're like,
Oh
oh my
yeah,
goodness,
yeah.
mom, I miss your
So
cooking.
true. I love it.
But I love it when somebody comes to my house and they say, oh my goodness, this was delicious. And I would love to take some home. Or what was your recipe? Like, give me more, give me more, give me more. That feels like that they enjoyed it. That feels like gratitude. That feels like they really appreciated what I offered them. And so I've
Yeah,
had
I love that too.
yeah, I've had that thought drop in recently. Like, that is exactly what God experiences when I am just like, yes, and more, please.
Wow, I love that. Thanks for sharing. That made it
Yeah.
really easy to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, oftentimes we look from the outside in and we see this picture like, oh, Lorene's on KSL and she's getting interviewed by the news in California or Arizona, or getting reached out to, or she's getting X number of followers. I would like to hear, what are the voices of self-doubt that drop in. What are some of those? What's kind of the behind the scenes when you're trying to take this aligned action? What gets in the way, and how do you overcome that?
Well, there's comparison for sure, because I could easily look at other coaches who I admire and be like, well, they're charging more or something, or one I'll get to that at some point. But I try to balance it with like coaching myself, in it. But I do notice that I'll have this comparison, or I'll try to talk myself in, but I don't quite believe it yet, maybe. And I think I also have these moments where I want to contribute to my family the way my husband does financially. And I think that's not coming from God, and that's coming from a different place, because really that doesn't help. I mean, we're taken care of. And I think sometimes I try to put my role in a role where it doesn't really support my family or my marriage or anything, but it's coming from this place of maybe I feel like I'm not enough, and I want to fill these other areas and think that that will make me enough, and maybe with my husband or something, which he's told me it doesn't. But I still, like, I've noticed that that's this one part of me that I'll go back to. And when I think about it, I'm thinking, where does that source come from? Because that actually, and as I've tried to work on it and tried to let go of that and just appreciate, the work that my husband does. Because sometimes I think I try to not appreciate as much, but try to be like that, or be like, well, I can too, type of thing. I can show my girls, having all daughters, that they can too. But I don't think that's where the most joy is coming from, because we don't I don't need to, and which
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful, and I am blessed that I don't need to. But I think there's this part of me just feels like it's like proving myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's that's actually not helpful for me, and it's kind of a weakness, that I can notice without judgment, right? And try to recognize it and work on that.
Yeah, it's kind of like it reminds me, 'cause I started out as a health coach as well, and it's that idea that you were talking about at the very beginning, like I'm okay because I have a six pack, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
there's that tangible result that I can say, oh, okay,
yeah,
this makes me successful.
yeah, yeah. Which is
Yeah.
so strange, because there's no one definition of what success is. Like, everyone can have a different one for that. And so
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's defining what success really is. And really, if you read the scriptures and everything, we don't have to think of it ourselves. Well, the proclamation to the family, it's like kind of written out for us. And why don't we test
Mm-hmm.
it out instead of trying to? I mean, I think the Lord loves effort and us learning and growing, but there's some standards and principles that I don't think we need to recreate to try to
Mm-hmm.
find more joy or happiness. Maybe we can try those and stick to it and see, just test it out and see if that works too.
Yeah. So how would you define success for you? How have you found peace? Because I can totally relate as a college athlete myself, as someone who is very driven and wants to be successful and looks at these outward markers for success.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think we're alone in this. I think that
yeah,
that's a very common place to say, when I reach X, especially in the coaching industry, I think it's
yeah,
very much um, kind of a underlying current of, if you're not bigger, better, richer, why
yeah,
are you even here? What are you even
yeah,
doing? Right. And
yeah,
so I think that this is a really valuable conversation for all of us, especially those of us that are very heart centered and wanting to bring gifts into the world. And
yes,
those gifts are absolutely, I have full belief, and this has been a process to learn how to embrace more fully, because this is a belief that I've had to relearn. I believe that I can make really beautiful money and be very well supported and use my
yeah.
spiritual gifts at the same time. I don't
That's
think that they're
brilliant.
two different things.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you define success, and how does that help sustain you and keep you going?
I don't know. When you said that, that to me feels like success, but I think I also have things to work on, because there's this part of me that's like, well, that shouldn't be success, like you should just feel, totally content without those desires, certain desires with the money part of it. And I recognize that's an area that I need to work on, and I will. But that's one of my goals, I guess, next steps with a coach. But yeah, so I have had little pockets of moments where I was like, okay, let go of the numbers, right? And just be present with your family and being a wife, and being present. Even though I've said it, I say it and preach it all the time, and that's been my goal like throughout my whole motherhood experience. I think there's still this part of me that fights it, and it's like, no, but you can do all of them the way you worded it, but then there's a bit of maybe guilt, or I think I'm going to go too far in one area and I'm not going to have this equal balance or something. And then I think maybe my kids are right there in the same room, but I'm looking at my phone and I'm messaging a client or something, or a potential client. So it's just, I think I'm still working on it. I mean, I have a lot of joy in my life, and happiness. I know I'm not perfect, but it's still something that I think I haven't got this perfect answer. I think being aware of it is huge. And that may be the key, because maybe I never will. And that's okay, because I think the fact that I want to have all of them, and I'm aware of maybe where I feel like it can be a weakness, because I can easily lean into one side more than the others, is a start, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where do you see it already working? Where do you see the balance already showing up? Because I do believe that God gives us glimpses into how to co-create this motherhood, which is very, very important, and this call on your heart that is also very, very important. And both are equally important. And I think sometimes we feel like one takes precedence over the other, right? Like motherhood is more important. And I'm never going to say my business is more important than motherhood, but the purpose of my life is equally important. My purpose is all encompassing, right? My purpose means that sometimes my family gets all of my attention. This morning I spent way long, 3 hours on a phone call trying to figure out meds for my daughter, right? That was like 3 hours of time that was not spent doing this other thing. But I'm so grateful that I had that space because of this beautiful business that supports that. I wasn't at a job or trying to do two different things at once. I was able to give that 3 times reluctantly, kind of grumpily, but I was able to give that time, and then also be present and know that whatever I have to give is enough. And that's, I think, the thing that I've been really trying to focus on is what I have to give is enough and magnified. So where do you see that happening in your life? Where do you see like that what you have to give is enough in motherhood and your business?
Well, for one, I think it's controlling what I can, because we both have blessed to have jobs where we can control our work hours, right? And so I schedule it since we've just got one left at home, it's going to be different next year, but just when she's in school, those are my working hours, and I don't work Mondays or Fridays, because that's just me kind of being present with the weekend, or like we travel for sports, or that's where we just go see our family now. We've got kids in college, so we'll drive up to see them, and I try to balance it. And then sometimes that balance is my daughter's calling me and I can't answer it right now. But there was this thought where I think my daughter actually made a reel, like, sometimes our parents don't answer my calls or something, and she's an adult married with a child. But I think it's finding healthy boundaries. It doesn't mean I don't love my kids. It's like, oh no, I'm involved in something, but I'll call you back later. So I'm not the parent that's going to answer every call on the moment, but I will call back later if I'm working on something or I'm about to get on a coaching call. Yeah, and just I think including not trying to hide that part when I share about myself, like sharing my values that are important to me, because also I think that attracts similar people who want that similar type of lifestyle. Because I think in the beginning of business, I thought, oh no, I have to look like this is everything, right? Like this is all I encompass, but that's not who I am. So I think recognizing and celebrating all the areas of your life and sharing that. And so people know who you are and they can be attracted to your lifestyle or not. And that's kind of bringing in the people that you want to attract anyway.
Hmm. I think that's one of the things that I see as one of your gifts is sharing your light and sharing your voice. Um, so I would love to hear how you developed that, because I can imagine that that wasn't just something that overnight you were just hopping on Instagram and feeling totally comfortable sharing. So how has that developed? How have you seen that gift be magnified as you've just, like we've talked about, taken that next aligned step or that followed that breadcrumb of yes?
Well, I think that's even really nice of you to say that because maybe I don't quite see it yet and maybe that's that. I'm like, oh, really? You think that about me? So that was really nice. I
It's
didn't
true.
get that talent. Um, but I think a lot of it actually when I do get on, because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to talk, and I will have times when I don't. But when I do, I think I let it feel led as like it's a calling. And that's what gives me that confidence because I think it's helping someone hopefully. And so I have to get over myself and thinking, oh, I'm getting on there. Like yesterday, I looked back at my story. I was like, oh, you can see I'm getting old, like my neck. So and I started to notice that. But then part of it is that like this is me. I can't hide me aging, and this is my life. And I want to attract people who are like me anyway, like who are like, yeah, I'm getting old too. Or I was like, I want to be real and I want people to feel that. And I can only do that by, I don't know, just showing up as who I am and not overthinking it. And so that's when I focus more on can this help someone else? And it takes away from picking at little things that are not perfect. Because I can easily look at, there's a friend of mine who lives down the road and all her posts look perfect. Even when you talk to her, I feel like I'm talking to a perfect person and stuff. And I had to actually, which I don't know if she'll listen to this, but I had to mute her on Instagram because I could tell it was getting in my head of that comparison. Yeah, obviously she doesn't know. I haven't told her, but maybe if she ever hears this, she'll find out. But the point is like you have to figure out what's stopping you, I think, which is taking those blocks away from your confidence and having you fall back. And there's different strategies, like as simple as maybe muting other people. Or
Yeah, and I can guarantee it's not because you don't appreciate, love, or admire her. It's almost the
yeah,
opposite, right? It's like I
yeah,
appreciate, love, and admire her so
yeah,
much, but I have to recognize that this is getting in the way of me shining my light. And
yeah,
so it's okay for me to not overthink muting her, but I'm going to.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with her tomorrow
yeah.
as I walk
I
down
mean,
the
we'll still
street.
text each other as friends, or I'll see her sometimes. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but it's just, and she's done that with other people. I just don't know if she knew I did it with her, but but yeah, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think that, I what I love about what you're saying is that we can only go around what we can see. Like you were talking about removing those blocks.
yeah,
We can't remove a block that we can't see.
yeah,
And so just that awareness, like, yeah, this is getting in my way. And one of the things that is coming to mind too as you're sharing that is I call it the terror barrier. Like the closer we get to a goal or the closer we get to shining our gifts into the world, the more terror we experience. Like it's just like, oh, don't do that,
Yeah.
right?
I'm feeling a
But
little
the
bit of that lately. Yeah.
yeah, oh, I'm sure because your light is shining brighter, right? You're getting
Yeah.
more visibility out there. And that's growth, right? We're always going to be feeling that because we're going to grow to the next level and then we're going to be ready to grow to the next level. That's the gift of expansion and the gift of progression. I think it's like ingrained in our DNA. We're meant to be growing. So we're always going to be experiencing that.
Yeah.
But I think what I hear in your story, which is so powerful, is that what pulls you through that terror, because we're all going to experience it,
Yeah.
is the call. I'm
Yeah.
treating this as a
Definitely.
calling. Like, yes, there is that part of me that feels like I'm not perfect, or the
Yeah.
comparison that shows up that is going to come in. Like, no person is immune to that. But what helps you to move through that terror is the call on the other side. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm going to do what I need to do, mute
Yeah.
or just move forward even when I feel like, oh my goodness, I like look at my reel, I'm aging, right? Like all those thoughts that we all have. I've had the
Yeah.
same thoughts, right? But it is recognizing those and saying, yes, they're here and
Yeah.
acknowledging them, and the call is louder.
I love that. And I love just that simple adding an and. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and then fill in the blank,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I feel scared, or yes, there's fear, yes, I'm anxious, whatever feeling could feel like scary or holding you back. And then just that simple and I'm going to do it anyway, or
Mm-hmm.
there's a higher purpose, or this is God's, I'm doing it because I feel called, like you said. So I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
saying that.
Yeah, I love that. I love and the yes and
Yeah.
that is it's such a powerful reframe. Um, really, really powerful. So one other question that I have for you, because I like personally just experienced this last night, and I've experienced it multiple times. I've been doing this entrepreneur business for the last 15 years, very heart centered, feel like it's a call that's like, yes, I'm going to do this. And I feel this pull out there. And there's the end. And so many times I have gotten to the point where I'm just like, I want to throw this, like, I want to burn this all down. Like I would just love to walk away right now. This is hard. I don't want to do this. Have you ever had moments like that? And what have you done in those moments?
I feel like I've had the beginning of them, but they're almost like, because I know really I don't want that, because that's not my core. And I think anyone who's an entrepreneur could probably agree, because there's just this drive in us that it's like, what would we do? I can't just sit around. I feel like I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I didn't. So I've had it as like a fleeting idea, because maybe it just feels good to like imagine like I quit or something. I've heard someone say that before, like, yeah, quit for 24 hours. Give yourself permission to like just quit and like not think about it. For some reason that stayed with me, because I thought, oh, okay, I could say that, because knowing that we have the control, I think just gives me permission to be like, oh yeah, I could if I want to. But the truth is I don't really want to. Like I couldn't, even if I know I just can't, because I
Mhm.
have a drive, and it's so fun creating, even though there's all the messy and unfun parts of it. I just know it's something that I could never go through with. And maybe
Mhm.
that's it. Like I can start thinking about it, but I feel like I would just be bored if
Yeah,
my
and I think
plan
that's
right
kind of
now.
the same conversation we were just having. It's the call that
Yeah,
keeps you in it. It's like, yeah, there's unfun parts, there's messy parts, and there's times when I want to quit. And
yeah,
I love that, giving yourself permission to quit for 24 hours.
yeah.
It is actually what I did today. I canceled
Oh,
everything but our podcast interview today
amazing.
because I was in that space last night. I was just like, I want to burn it all down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Like,
then
I'm
maybe it's a
done.
space to reevaluate, right? It's like, okay, wait, I am in control. What is it that feels the heaviest? And I can. Like, I love that you just did cancel everything, which you could have canceled today and I would be fine too. I just love, I mean, rescheduled, not like I'm really grateful to be on this, but I think it's beautiful that we have control. And then it reminds us, like, oh yeah, I can if I want. And then if I want to come back, I can come back. It's not like
Yeah.
someone's our boss and says, no, you can't, or there's consequences, but you get to decide and you know the consequences. And so I think that just kind of changes it a little because we chose to do this in the first place. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay if we choose to take a break or even quit. I mean, that's when I'm
Mm-hmm.
coaching athletes. I tell them, I'm like, if you want to quit, because sometimes they feel like, oh, there's just this fleeting idea, but I can't actually quit because people are relying on me, or that's just not what we do. And they just stay stuck, or they feel like they don't have the choice. And then it takes away their power. And so just even reminding them, you can, there's no one making you stay. Like you can walk away if you want. I think gives them like, oh, I can just take a deep breath. It's like, oh, I can if I want to. And they don't allow themselves to actually take their brains to what that would look like. And like, let's talk about it. What would it look like if you quit? And then they realize most of the time, or actually all the ones I've coached, that they actually don't want to. And it kind of helps them remember the joy of it, and then recognize what's hard, but process it because they don't process it all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it clarifies what you want when you give yourself permission not to have it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And yes, there are, and also there's the contrast, right? There's the opportunity to say, okay, what is it about it that I don't want?
Yes.
What is it about it that I do want? And then it helps me to clarify more clearly my desires so that I do know what to ask for more clearly from
I
God.
totally get that because I wanted I mean, I did this membership and I realized I don't really enjoy this. But I'm going to finish it off to the amount of time that I said, but I'm not going to continue it. And I think when we create that mindset, it's like, wait a minute, like we can run our businesses the way we want to so that it is a joy. And it doesn't have to, it might not look like that coach that's super successful, but you might find your success in the way that you're doing it because that's where your passion lies with this specific method of coaching versus what that other coach is doing and it's working great for them. And that's where I think comparison comes in too. And then just giving yourself permission to be like, oh, I run mine differently and I find joy in this, but I won't find that out until I've tested out this way. And now sometimes I even test it out a second time because I thought, oh, maybe I didn't, maybe I didn't learn or I did something different
Mhm.
because I've done memberships twice and I didn't really love them both times, but I thought I would the next time. But yeah, so you just learn like what works best for you and your path and where, because I think people will see that your joy isn't there and it feels more like a job, right? If you show up in a way that doesn't align. But I think that's part of the
Mhm.
process. Like we have,
Absolutely. I think it goes back to what you were sharing at the beginning that you gave yourself permission to be
yeah,
messy, to
yeah,
try to like bring everything to the table and say, try this, try this, try this, try this, try this. And
yeah,
that's okay. That's how I create. And I'm going
yeah,
to give myself permission to create in a way that maybe I had a little bit of judgment about. Like I should be creating, 1 + 2 = 3. But really, the way that I'm creating is puzzle piece, puzzle piece, puzzle piece, puzzle piece,
yeah,
and then finally finding the one that fits.
yeah,
And I'm finding, and this is what I coach many of my heart centered business owner clients on, is I trust alignment more than strategy.
oh, I
And
love that.
that's been something that I think I've had to go through a lot of failure to learn
Yeah,
because there's a lot of strategy and you should do it this way
yes,
in our industry,
yes,
right? And we look for that for safety and for the next step because that feels safe. It
yeah,
feels predictable. It's like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z like that coach is doing, then I'm going to have the success that that coach is having. But the problem is that alignment, if it doesn't feel in alignment, that X, Y, and Z strategy doesn't work.
I love that.
So but like you said, if I trust my alignment, that breadcrumb of yes, that's actually where people start reaching out to me.
Yes,
And
it is.
things
Yeah,
happen that I could have never orchestrated.
yeah. And I've loved figuring that out because it was hard because everything's systems and structure and I don't like it. But there's things we can take from it. There's so many great principles, but I've realized that I don't feel aligned when I'm just like, this is it. If I do it in this exact order, then that's where success is. But I haven't really found that. You know, I can take out little things, but when it's that alignment, because then you just, I don't know what happens. I'm still figuring out how to explain it. That's probably where you can explain it, which you just did. I'm just going to say 100% agree.
Yeah, and it is a practice. It is absolutely a practice of creating from um, creating from bliss versus creating from shoulds. And I think that that's what I'm still trying to learn. That I think sometimes we see God as a you should do this kind of God, and I'm learning that that's not who God is. God is a follow your bliss, and I give you more.
That's
Um,
amazing. That's that sounds amazing. But I think so many people don't see it that way, right? Yeah. So that's, I mean, that just sounds so much better.
it feels better.
Yeah.
What do I want? What do I want to create today? And how can I trust that it's enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Well, what a beautiful conversation. I could continue talking with you all afternoon, but it just has been so inspiring to hear your story. And I know your story is going to influence so many other heart centered women who are following the call on their heart. And just as a place to end it for today, what advice would you give someone who may feel very ordinary, but feels that call on her heart to create something more? What advice would you give her as she is stepping into this more that she's creating? And that more can be in her home, as a business owner, in her relationships. It's so expansive. I don't ever want to like say creating more is just creating a business. No, absolutely not. Your purpose may just be showing up more present as a mom, and that
Yeah.
100% agree and behind that's the most important thing you can be doing. And if there is more or something else that you feel called to do, what advice would you give her?
I guess I think what comes to mind is when I'm coaching athletes, the very first session, and they come in feeling kind of defeated. The very first message that I hope that they believe is you're not alone. Because I think women, we feel isolated. But I mean, in the beginning, right, it can feel isolating, like, oh, I want more, but I don't know. But look at all those other people, right? They're all doing it. It's too late for me, or well, you know, and there's just the whole comparison. And sometimes I hear that from, you know, my older daughter who's both of them maybe who just had babies, right? They're like trying to figure out this new season of lives, and they used to have so much more independence, and now they're like, well, how do I find myself again while raising a child? And I just want them to first off know that you're not alone, and then that leads to, you know, there's so much love for you, and then God sees you, even though this might sound very cliche, right? But I think these are just core things to build that foundation again, because I think we always have these restarts or just different seasons of our lives, where I know mine's coming up as a I'm going to be an empty nester, and that's going to be new for me. And just finding something that brings you joy. And it might be so simple. Maybe it's starting off with walking outside, right? Just getting outside, and maybe it starts with just around the block. But that opens your brain up to ideas, and it's a type of meditation. Find something that feels like it's just for you, no matter how small it is. and give yourself permission to dream or desire. I want to choose that word instead because I feel like that's come up for me and it's been this highlighted word the last maybe 3 months. Like it starts with that desire. Give yourself permission to desire for your growth. So that was a whole bunch of things. It wasn't just one thing, but
I think I'm going to put that as a highlight. Give yourself permission to desire for your growth, just for your growth. It doesn't have to be for anybody else to be
attached to anything else
okay.
to be
Yeah,
worthy. Yeah.
exactly. You don't have to get permission because I'm serving somebody else. It's
Yeah.
just enough to be
That's
for your
deserve
own
enough.
growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Lorene. It's been so beautiful to watch your journey and to just have you on the podcast today and hear your story and hear your heart. And I know that what you have shared today will impact so many. And I'm just grateful for you and for being here. So thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.